And hi, welcome to another edition of Botha Rants. My name is Sophia Botha. Welcome to the show, the YouTube show, where we go through all the latest LGBTQ news of interest, or at least interest to me. Right, well, let's get on with it. So, I saw this article. Hate preacher, trans people are influenced right out of the pits of hell. Yeah, there's a video here. This is some retired Lieutenant General Jerry Bookham, I think his name is. Well, it says his name is that there. Okay, so let's see what he has to say.
And the big lie today is that if you were born with the genitalia of a male, you don't have to spend your life that way.
It's not a lie. Your penis does not make a man. It's it's not what's in between your legs, mate. It's what's in between your ears which counts. Okay?
Because what you actually might be is a woman, or vice versa. Now, I can tell you how to figure it out. I can tell you how to know whether you're a man or not.
Mankind has done it pretty well for thousands of years.
Done it pretty well. But this is the big...
Oh no! The world's changing and I can't. I'm too stupid to figure out that our understanding of gender is evolving. Oh, I'm such a boomer. I'm stuck in the past. Oh, yeah. Give me apple pie and white picket fences. And we're men and men and women are women. And black people were segregated. It'll bring me back that world. Oh, fuck off. That's what he's. This is what they want. They want to go back to some mythic, some 1950s which didn't fucking exist.
Lie. And the problem is that society has bought into this lie, and they're perpetuating this lie. And I don't care what you say, I cannot imagine that any man or woman can change their gender, particularly if they go through the...
Gender's a social construct. Okay? Doesn't have anything necessarily to do with biology. Right? That, obviously, you're too ignorant to fucking understand this. But hey.
Surgery and the hormones and all that, and ever really truly be happy.
I am. I'm happy being myself. Yeah, I'm happy. I've had medical intervention, so I'm happy. Yeah, fuck you. You're the one who's unhappy that I'm happy.
What they've done. This is a diabolical issue,
Absolutely.
and it is influenced right out of the pits of hell.
Yeah.
And the big...
Yeah, well, yeah. Satan's talking to me all the time. It makes us sound like really cool, doesn't it? Rock on, yeah, we're cool. Oh, God, they're trying to make out trans people are part of the satanic panic. Oh, fuck off, This was the same shit they used to say about Motley Crue. I mean, Motley Crue are shit, but all that hair metal shite. Motley Crue are a shit band. Can I just say that? Motley Crue are a shit band. I do not like Motley Crue. I didn't like any of their hair metal stuff, but I did like some of the thrash metal stuff. I remember. I'm old enough to remember when Metallica were an underground band. Yeah, was considered the alternative. Master of Puppets. That was a good album. Yeah, it makes us sound as cooler than we actually are. Yeah, rock on, Satan. Nah. Yeah. Now, I did promise on Monday that I would. I forgot to put it in the running order on Monday. There is, as well as being homophobic and transphobic, the Tories are also MB-phobic. Non-binary people have fuck all legal recognition in this country, and that needs to change. And so there is a petition here. I have signed it. This is... and I suggest people also go and sign this. I will put a link down in the video description for people to go and sign this. Please go and do so if you live in this country. That's Britain. Because non-binary people deserve justice and equality as much as anyone else. And unless we fight for it, they won't get it. I know that some people say, well, the Tories aren't that transphobic, aren't that homophobic. Well, here's the thing: the Tories shelved self-ID. Now, we're going to talk about conversion therapy because yet again they've announced they're going to ban it. But we'll see. So let's go on with that. The Tories, yesterday was the Queen's speech. For those outside the UK, this is when the government announces its legislative programme for the next year. The thing is, I read the LGBTQ Nation article on this, right? And it said, Queen Elizabeth II announces a ban on conversion therapy, making it sound like we are an absolute monarchy. We're not. Though there are these, when you do listen. I mean, I unfortunately I wasn't feeling very well yesterday, so I spent most of the day in bed. But usually when I've watched the Queen's speech, you do get these the language, is it's like, my parliament. So it's not. You'd think that it's the people's parliament. No, it's Lizzie's parliament. My government. We thought that the government was accountable to the people. No, it's Lizzie's government. And then of course let me remind people, you're not British citizens. You're British subjects. Yes, you're Lizzie's subjects. For all of which I say, viva the Socialist Republic of Great Britain. The sooner it happens, the better. Fuck the monarchy, fuck the House of Lords. Let's have a socialist meritocracy. However, we have a constitutional monarchy, and essentially, the Queen or the monarch is the basically ceremonial figurehead of the state. So, she does actually have. Lizzie could dissolve Parliament if she wants to. It would be extraordinarily if she did. But anyways, so the Tories have announced again they're going to ban conversion therapy. So let's get into this. For fuck's sake. Hold on. Excuse me. Oh, fuck off. Stupid. Sorry, I'm just... I'll tell you, I'll read it out. A conversion therapy ban will soon be brought forward to Parliament. It was confirmed in Tuesday's Queen's speech. During her speech at the state opening of Parliament, Queen Elizabeth II promised measures will be brought forward to address racial and ethnic disparities and ban conversion therapy. Right, now let's see if I can get my reader to work. Okay.
The Queen added that her government will strengthen and renew democracy and the Constitution, protect freedom of speech and restore the balance of power between the executive, legislature and the courts. Following the Queen's speech, Liz Truss, Minister for Women and Equalities, confirmed in a statement that legislation would be brought forward following a public consultation. She said, as a global leader on LGBT+ rights, this government has always been committed to stamping out the practice of conversion therapy. We want to make sure that people in this country are protected, and these proposals mean nobody will be subjected to coercive and abhorrent conversion therapy. Alongside this legislation, we will make new funding available to ensure that victims have better access to the support they need. The Government Equalities Office said that the funding for victims would be in place by this summer, but again gave no timeline for legislation banning conversion therapy, insisting it would be introduced as soon as parliamentary time allows, and following a consultation. The consultation is set to seek to opinions of the public and key stakeholder to ensure that the ban can address the practice while...
Right, so this whole public consultation, a lot of LGBT plus activists and campaigners are basically fearful that this is yet another excuse for the government to essentially drag their feet in banning conversion therapy. and I have to agree with them. Now, I know that some people would say this is a matter of course with any bill going through Parliament, or any proposed bill, that there is a public consultation. But can I remind people that there was a public consultation on self-ID for trans people, and even though there was 70% support for it, that's a good majority of people who were consulted in the process supporting self-ID for trans people. The government shelved it. So, yeah, why do I get the feeling that this is just another excuse to kick it into the long grass?
The consultation is set to seek to opinions of the public and key stakeholder to ensure that the ban can address the practice while protecting the medical profession, defending freedom of speech, and upholding religious freedom. It comes almost 3 years after the Conservative Party's 2018 pledge to eradicate conversion therapy in the UK as a part of their LGBT+ action plan. The Queen's speech gave no details as to when a ban would be brought forward, or any information on what it would cover.
Right, you see, and that's the other thing. There's no, the government have said, yeah, we're going to ban conversion therapy, but there's no, actual, plan to, any details on how they're going to go forward with this ban. That's what worries me, because time and time again for the last fucking 3 years, all we've heard from the Tories is we're going to ban conversion therapy, and they haven't yet got on with it. And yet again, I think this is yet another ploy to do the same as they've done before.
And campaigners fear that exemptions for religious institutions and free speech protections could allow the practice to continue legally.
Yeah, and it's essentially this ban on conversion therapy won't be worth the paper it's fucking printed on.
And campaigners fear that exemptions for religious institutions and free speech protections could allow the practice to continue legally. Gay evangelical Christian Jane Ozanne, director of the Ozanne Foundation, responded to the Queen's speech, "I am relieved to hear that measures will be brought forward to ban conversion therapy." However, the government risks creating a highly dangerous loophole if it chooses to focus purely on coercive practices. Most LGBT+ people in religious settings feel it is their duty to submit to those in authority and will therefore willingly follow their leaders' advice, even if it causes them great harm. The government needs to implement what the UN and senior religious leaders have called for, a full ban on all conversion practices. We do not need yet more delay, they have consulted long enough. We now need action before more lives are lost. In March this year, Ozanne was one of 3 members of the government's own LGBT+ advisory panel quit their positions, accusing the Conservative Party of creating a hostile environment for LGBT+ people.
Well, yeah. I don't know if it's necessarily a hostile environment. It's just that I guess not caring about LGBTQ people, which is basically Boris Johnson, all around, is, creating a hostile environment. Anyways, so campaigners have basically said, just get the fuck on with it, and completely agree. So, this is also from Pink News. Boris Johnson told get on with it conversion therapy ban after announcing plans for public consultation. LGBT+ activists have expressed concern at the government plans to hold a public consultation on conversion therapy, with some warning that it could lead to exemptions. Yeah, you see, this is what I'm worried about. This is going to be a fucking sieve of a fucking bill. Basic... pray the gay away will still be allowed. And why should any LGBTQ people be told that there's something wrong with them on the basis of the word of some non-existent supernatural mystical fucking sky daddy? Yeah, and let's be honest. a lot of people who use, the supposed word of God to persecute LGBTQ people, they themselves are insecure about their sexuality, right? And they needn't be. There's nothing wrong with being LGBTQ plus. There's nothing wrong with being lesbian, gay, bisexual, queer, or trans. There isn't. Okay. Queen Elizabeth II promised conversion therapy will be brought forward. During her speech in the opening of Parliament. Yep. The government equalities confirmed directly afterwards that legislation will be advanced following a public consultation process, which will ensure that the ban can address the practice while protecting medical profession. Well, why does the medical profession need to be protected? Right? It's really, the nutball evangelical Christians who are the people who basically support conversion therapy. Try to make out that it's some sort of pseudo fucking psychotherapy. No, it's fucking not. It's based on a load of hocus pocus prejudice bullshit. Okay? And that's it. They're defending free speech and upholding religious freedom. Nancy Kelly, of CEO at Stonewall, described plans for a public consultation as concerning, saying a process will be hard for our communities to hear. Kelly said, "We don't need a consultation to know that all practices that seek to convert, suppress, cure, or change us are dangerous, yes, abusive, and must be banned." Yep. Lesbian, gay, bi, trans, intersex, and ace communities have been waiting almost 3 years for for the UK government to follow through on their promise to ban all conversion practices. Any delay leaves us at further risk of abuse. You see, here's the thing. The Northern Irish Assembly, and we know that if there's one part of the UK which is even more fundamentalist Christian than any other, it is Northern Ireland, actually banned conversion therapy outright, without exceptions. Right? And that's what we need at the Westminster Parliament. That is what we need throughout the UK. I don't want Christians to think that they can still torture us a little bit, or any other religion. I'm not denying that there aren't Jewish homophobes, believe me. And that's Jewish, as in those Jews who practice Judaism. Always remember, just because someone's Jewish does not mean that they practice Judaism. Anyways, we're getting off the point. Of course, Islam as well. All religions have. Most religions I know, other than maybe paganism, have somewhat of a homophobic, transphobic problem. Or there's at least a strain of that, within that religion. Having said that, I know plenty of Muslims, I know plenty of Jews, I know plenty of Christians who are very pro-LGBTQ. And usually, it's usually really only a minority, but they're usually the most militant and most vocal, and it's always the extremists who will do the most damage. Kelly called the government to publish a comprehensive bill now, and said officials should give a clear timeline for implementation of conversion therapy ban. Jane Ozan, a campaigner who has worked tirelessly to end conversion therapy in the UK, said she was relieved that the government has offered a firm commitment to ban the practice. But they have already confirmed this 3 fucking years ago. However, she said that the government could create a highly dangerous loophole if it chooses to focus purely on coercive practices. You see, here's the thing, right? A lot of people who are subjected to conversion therapy tend to be young LGBTQ people, and usually it's the Christian parents who force them into it. or religious parents. Yeah, and I've always said that there's this scenario, right? So, say a Christian couple has a kid, and the kid tells this Christian couple that their life, they're being instructed on how to live their life from fairies at the bottom of the garden, right? That Christian couple would have that kid in therapy quick. Yet, they dragged them off to, church every week, every Sunday, on how to be, and have some, voice interpreting the word of God, who doesn't fucking exist, tell them how to live their lives. Yeah, I just think that there is so much fucking hypocrisy with fucking religion. The government, Ozone called, Ozane called the government to take action now before more lives are lost, adding the political leaders have consulted long enough. Yeah, I'd agree with her there. The government's commitment was welcomed by LGBT plus rights activist Peter Tatchell. However, he condemned the government for a further delay, lack of clarity, and absence of a timetable for the ban. Tatchell said the government has been promising this ban for nearly 3 years, and still we don't have it. All we had is more than 1,000 days of dithering. We don't yet know the precise details of this ban, and there has been reports that it will not apply to religious bodies and practices. Well, it needs to, because they are the main instigators of all this bullshit. We have had countless studies and consultations. We don't need any more. It's time Boris got on with it and got this ban done. He added, We need to see the postponed legislation. It must not allow religious exemptions, faith bodies, or main proponents. The ban needs to be full and comprehensive and provide statutory support for victims and survivors. Tatchell pointed out that there is no scientific or therapeutic backing for allowing conversion therapy to continue in any form. True. And says efforts to suppress a person's sexual orientation or gender identity leads to mental and emotional damage. Absolutely. He described conversion therapy as fraudulent quackery. Yep. That is inherently abusive. It is. And urged the government to accept the evidence and dither no longer. Mermaids, a charity that works with trans youth, also welcomed the commitment to ban conversion therapy. However, the group said the ban must protect all LGBT plus people. It is vital that all forms of so-called conversion therapy are banned in all settings, including psychological, medical, privately, in families and communities, and crucially in faith and religious settings, said Louis, I can't pronounce that, sorry, Asquith, Director of Legal and Policy of Mermaids. The charity said any further delay is time wasted and result in more people being subjected to traumatising practice. The UK government first promised to outlaw the dangerous and discredited practice of conversion therapy in 2018. Almost 3 years on, no legislation has been brought forward. In that time, the UK government has repeatedly kicked the can down the road. Yeah, as I said, this is the Tories. This is actually one of the this is basically a Tory tactic. They like a tactic the Tories like to do when they're not fully committed to something. Okay, I mean, Grenfell. We're 4 years on from the fire at Grenfell, and still there are buildings with flammable cladding because the government's still, investigating various things. and well, we know what the cause was. Get on and bring up the building regs to up to spec. Yeah, So yeah. In 2018, the government launched a public consultation on proposed reforms to the Gender Recognition Act, which would have simplified the process of legal recognition for trans people. The only thing which has come from that, I forgot, and I actually forgot to report on this. The price, basically, the fee to get a gender recognition certificate has come down to £5. However, why do I get the feeling that there'll be legal? Basically, if you want to challenge, if you get turned down for a gender recognition certificate because you can't have surgery, why do I get the feeling that and you challenge it, that's going to cost you, quite a lot in legal fees? I had a friend who basically had to challenge 3 times to get, they had to appeal 3 times to finally get a gender recognition certificate. The results of that consultation weren't announced until September 2020, which showed broad support for the reform. Days later, the government announced that it was scrapping plans to reform the GRA. You see, I told you this, yeah. And that's what scares me about all this, that essentially they're just going to kick the can down the road and eventually go, we can't be bothered. And in the meantime, religious groups will still be able to torture, LGBTQ people for being LGBTQ. And that's not right at all. Now, also in the Queen's speech, before I get to that, if we ever need a reminder of why we need a ban on conversion therapy, here's a story. School chaplain preaches to kids that same-sex marriage and gay sex is morally problematic. Well, why aren't I surprised? So, yet again, some preacher thinks that, some crusty old book says, LGBTQ people are bad. Yeah, and they reckon, that this crusty old book holds merit because it's the word of some mystical, non-existent, supernatural sky daddy. Basically, LGBTQ people are being oppressed, persecuted, discriminated against, whatever else, killed in some parts of this world because people believe in supernatural hocus pocus. God, yeah. Whatever happened to the age of reason? And also, here's the thing. God doesn't exist. LGBTQ people fucking well do. As I say, if someone said, if someone went around persecuting LGBTQ people because, they reckoned that fairies at the bottom of the garden told them to do so, but I doubt any fairies at the bottom of the garden ever would, that, people would say they're fucking insane. But because, supposedly some established, because of some established religion, believes in some mystical sky daddy, then that's all okay. No, it's fucking not. Not in my book. Fuck. I just hate. I particularly when it comes to the persecution. This is when I really get on my militant atheist hobby horse. I really fucking well do. Just fuck off. So, and here's another reminder. It's always essentially, right, homophobes and transphobes, they know they can't get anywhere now with LGBT plus adults because most LGBT plus adults have wised up about, it's okay to be LGBT plus. Okay, and but they're still trying to prey on the youth, right, who are impressionable. And believe me, Christian fundamentalists, they always, they do seem to insert themselves into jobs and careers where they have contact with impressionable children. I remember very well when I was at school, there was an English teacher. Her name was Miss Dady, Susan Dady. And she was a fundamentalist Christian. And any time she could, she had a fucking opportunity, she'd bring God into the conversation. I mean, that's what Christian fundamentalists do. They always go, I'm a practicing Christian. And so what? Look, if you find comfort in believing in some non-existent mystical sky daddy, fine. But just don't shove it down everyone else's fucking throat, all right? Yeah, I'm not trying. And I know some people say, "Oh, well, you LGBT plus people, you always try to convert everyone else into be." No, you're either LGBT plus or you're not. All right. Yeah, I have always said I would, particularly when it comes to trans, I would never tell anybody, right, to come out as trans. They have to make that decision themselves. Okay. Now, once someone has come out as trans, and they're trying, I will then support them. I definitely will support them when they've made that decision, but they have to make that initial decision themselves. Anyways, so LGBT high school students told to die in appalling and terrifying graffiti dabbed over a pride flag. LGBT plus students were told to die in appalling and a terrifying homophobic graffiti dubbed over a pride flag. Abusive slurs were scrawled on a whiteboard that had a pride flag projected onto a Broadland High School in Norfolk, according to the Norfolk News. Separately, a student was filmed making vile remarks about gay and trans people. The school has reportedly asked students to delete the recording. Delete the recording to prevent it from being shared widely. In an email to North Norfolk News, a member of the school community said they believed the incidents counted as hate crimes. I would say so. They also accused officials at Broadland High School of not taking appropriate action in response to the hateful incidences. The school community member who has been named told the newspaper the school has been passive in response to this, with those who filmed it being asked to remove the content so it cannot be shared. I personally believe this is appalling and terrifying for LGBT plus community. A spokesperson for the school insisted that the institution took immediate action when it received reports of 2 anti-LGBT plus incidents. Anti-LGBT plus hate incident in Norfolk School completely out of line with standards. We have a robust reporting in place to ensure everyone's safety and well-being, and so that it would be made aware of the incident on Tuesday, which was filmed and photographed and was completely out of line with our standards and expectations. Basically, when you hear all this stuff, right, it is basically them trying to cover their own arse. Seriously, let us just say I've experienced some stuff when I've had involvement with various, shall we say, organisations and institutions, and I've been for certain, incidences happen. And if it gets reported in the press, it's usually a lot worse in real life than it seems in the press, because what happens is that organisation or that institution will go on a PR offensive and try and spin their way out of it. I'm just saying that. That's been my experience. So yeah, I was getting around to this. So as well as announcing a supposed ban on conversion therapy in the Queen's speech, the Tories also have announced the introduction of photo ID for voting. Of course, this is a form of voter suppression. Yeah, and the Americans watching this will know all about this. Of course, why is it always it's always the right which really gets hung up about supposed voter fraud, when in fact there's fuck all voter fraud. And when it is revealed that there is any voter fraud, it tends to always be, people on the right doing it. This is basically just another Tory ploy to disenfranchise various sections of society from voting. I mean, if you can't, I don't have a passport because I can't afford a foreign holiday. I can't afford, and I can't drive because, well, I'm disabled. Disabilities prevent me from driving, so I don't have a driving license. I don't have a passport. Also, and of course, this is going to hurt non-binary people. It's going to hurt trans people. It's also going to hurt elderly people as well, because a lot of elderly people don't drive, they don't have a passport. And a lot of elderly people, of course, tend to vote Tory. So, really, actually, are the Tories really, in the end, shooting themselves in the foot with this? This won't just be it, though. I know that the Tories have had, I also have plans to reduce the number of MPs at Westminster, which would actually favour the Tories, the way the constituencies would be made up. So basically they're trying to gerrymander constituency borders to ensure that they're in power for fucking ever. And of course, disenfranchising people who are more likely to vote Labour, as in trans, non-binary people, people, disabled people, poor, sick and vulnerable and poor people, who are more unlikely to have photo ID. This, no wonder you have Tory dictatorship trending on fucking Twitter. I mean, don't say I didn't warn you. The Tories don't believe in fucking democracy. Yeah, the Republic, just as the GOP don't fucking believe in democracy. They don't want, they don't want people, they don't want, and why is that? Because of capitalism, that basically the corporations, who back, the likes of the Tories and the GOP, they want to keep things ticking over nicely so they can make nice, profits. Now, of course, some people say, "Oh, that's bullshit," because look at, they had to instigate, the COVID lockdown, and a lot of, corporations didn't like that. True, but there again, and I just remind you that there's a lot of corporations that have done quite nicely out of the COVID lockdown, like Amazon, like the big supermarkets. Yeah, I would imagine that even the postal service, postal service has probably done quite nicely out of it when you think about it. Anyways, so back to the photo ID. So the government plans for compulsory photo ID for general elections would severely disenfranchise trans and non-binary people. The Mermaids, charity Mermaids, has said. Plans to require voters to produce photographic ID at polling stations is expected to be announced on Tuesday's. Well, it was. Ministers will position the move as an effort to curtail electoral fraud, which is just fuck all of. However, statistics show that there is this is a problem that doesn't really exist. Civil liberties groups have stressed. Yeah, exactly. Let me put the reader on. Sorry, getting a bit tired already.
See, according to The Guardian, the proposal, first floated in the Tories' 2019 manifesto, would allow citizens to apply for a voting ID card from their local council. This, however, would need to be done weeks before an election and could disenfranchise many, with many suggesting it would disproportionately impact marginalised voters. Mermaids, a charity for trans youth, warned that the voting reforms would be devastating for trans and non-binary voters, especially coming at a time when non-binary folk are petitioning for legal recognition. If this becomes a requirement, it will disenfranchise trans and non-binary people who do not have access to representative ID, Mermaids Director of Legal and Policy, Lee Asquith, said in a statement to Pink News. Most of us do not have a birth certificate that reflects our gender identity. Not everyone has a passport. Not everyone has a driver's license. Those of us who do, may not have the money to update them during our transition. This means that this process will indirectly require many of us to out ourselves in order to vote. This is not okay. Everyone should feel confident in exercising their democratic right. David Davis, a former Tory cabinet minister, told The Independent that ID checks at polling stations are nothing more than an illiberal solution in pursuit of a non-existent problem. He dubbed...
Now, I'll give David Davis some credit there. David Davis has surprised me occasionally. He does tend to be more pro-civil civil liberties than most Tories, though he is also rather anti-LGBTQ, unfortunately.
He dubbed the proposal unnecessary and pointless. Big Brother Watch, a civil liberty group, found that in the 2017 general election just a single conviction of in-person voter fraud took place. That year saw 44.6 million votes cast in what was one of the highest voter turnouts in 20 years. We strongly caution against proposals for compulsory photo IDs for voters, its report, dated 2019, stated. Such proposals are unjustified, risk damaging democracy and could lead to an ID scheme by the back door. In the 2019 general election, some 595 cases of alleged electoral fraud were recorded by the police, the Electoral Commission found. The election watchdog added that only 4 led to a conviction and a single person slapped with a police caution. The government has sought to blunt outrage by pointing to the meek successes of recent trials of voter ID schemes in England, some of which saw a local electoral identity document tested. The free-of-charge card would be available for those without a passport but must be acquired before the election day. Showing ID to vote is a reasonable approach to combat the inexcusable potential for voter fraud in our current system.
This really is just another tier of fucking bureaucracy which we don't fucking need. Like, as I said, there's fuck all electoral fraud going on. And I mean, during my lifetime, I've seen the election after. I mean, okay, voter turnout was up a bit in 2017. Of course, it was way up with the Scottish referendum. But generally, voter turnout has been down. I can't remember the last time it was. Other than 2007, I can't remember the last time it was. For generally the trend has been downwards, and we need to encourage people to vote, not disenfranchise them from voting. It's funny how the right, of course, wanting to keep the corporatocracy going, they want to discourage people to vote. Yet it's us on the left who actually want fucking democracy. Yeah, well, they're called the fascists. Yeah, fuck off. Why do I get the feeling that this actually will be binned? Seriously, I think this will be binned eventually. For, I just don't think it. There's something telling me that it won't go ahead. Anyways, some good news from last week's local elections. The first non-binary mayor of any city anywhere hailed an example to all after winning election age 22. I mean, it's amazing that they were also elected so young. It's, I'm glad that there are young people getting involved in politics. I mean, I remember when I wanted to get involved in politics when I was young, I was always dissuaded from doing so. Seriously, if you know the amount of, I really was. People just didn't want me involved. They're always trying to. In fact, I still get it now with trans activism. I said I wouldn't name any names. Well, I won't do so yet. But let's just say that some people in the trans hierarchy, certain leading figures in when it comes to trans activism, have constantly tried to persuade me, basically, not to speak out. Well, I'm free to speak out, and I will. And I'm going to. You're not going to stop me. Anyways, that's beside the point. So Owen J. Hookham, this is why I don't like doing YouTube. I can't pronounce fucking names. This is why I prefer using a reader. So I'm going to use the reader. Okay.
Owen J. Hurcombe, 22, has been elected Mayor of Bangor, Wales, making him the first ever openly non-binary mayor of any city anywhere. Hurcombe was unanimously elected as mayor, having worked as deputy mayor for the last year and a councillor for 4 years. They also become the youngest ever mayor in Wales. Twitter of themselves wearing traditional mayoral chains, a tricorn hat and a sheer black top. Hurcombe wrote, "When I came out 2 years ago I was so worried I'd be ostracized by my community or worse. Today my community elected me mayor of our great city. The youngest ever mayor in Wales. The first ever openly non-binary mayor of any city anywhere. Beyond humbled, Diolch Bangor."
Yeah, it's really good to hear this. And the fact that the community seems to have welcomed them. It's really good to hear. Well, much applause for Owen. I hope I hope they continue to have a successful political career. Maybe see them in the House of Commons one day. Anyways, onwards. Okay, so if we need any more reminder of what the real threat to liberty is, it comes from the far right. Alleged neo-Nazi called for degenerate gay people to be purged for the greater good, court hears. I'm just going to say this, right? So I have encountered a few trans people who are like really anti-immigrant and who have voted for UKIP. You do know that you're swimming in the same sea same pool as these fuckers, don't you? They don't like you, Well, why can't you get that? They're just because they hate immigrants more, even more, because supposedly, lines on a map are somehow define us. I don't think so. We all, bleed the same colour. We all shit the same colour. We're all humans.
Alleged neo-Nazi Andrew Dimmock called for degenerate homosexuals to be purged from society, a court heard, despite telling police that he himself identifies as bisexual. Andrew Dimmock, 23, is on trial at the Old Bailey for a string of terrorism offences after allegedly promoting the neo-Nazi System Resistance Network, SRN, a
Hold on. Is this guy essentially taking out his own insecurities about his sexuality out on other people? Why do I get the feeling that that's the case here? Huh? Yeah. Yeah. Well, why is it so often that this is what propels hate? I mean, all right, India Willoughby isn't. She's certainly, well, she's not no neo-Nazi, but yeah, her insecurity about being trans, she takes out on everyone, all other trans people in the trans community. In fact, actually, I saw a video of her yesterday doing so yet a fucking again. I haven't put it in the running order because, to be honest, I just can't be bothered with India at the moment. Anyways.
Andrew Dimmock, 23, is on trial at the Old Bailey for a string of terrorism offences after allegedly promoting the neo-Nazi System Resistance Network, SRN, a banned far-right group that preaches homosexuality as a disease. Said. Jurors were shown a 2017 article entitled "Homosexuality, the Eternal Social Menace," purportedly written by Dimmock, which stated that gay people are simply degenerate and must be purged from society for the greater good. The court also heard that an SRN video, which prosecutors say Andrew Dimmock took part in and uploaded online, shows two masked figures plastering homophobic stickers around Southampton ahead of the city's Pride Parade. The YouTube description said that it showed a visit to the Pride route just hours before the event started, in order to put up some friendly flyers. Another SRN video which encouraged people to join your local Nazis depicted masked men performing Nazi salutes, and showed a pumpkin with a swastika cut into it sitting outside a Cardiff police station. An examination.
Oh, charming. Yeah.
However, jurors were shown ample evidence of his alleged Nazi beliefs, including several books, flags, clothes, flags and badges with links to the extreme right wing. An email address Dimmock used contained the phrase Blitz 8814, a reference to the well-known neo-Nazi numerical code 1488, formed of a combination of white supremacist and Nazi slogans. Dimmock told detectives, "I know 88 means Heil Hitler, but basically to me it means Hulk Hogan or Hell Hoxer, you know, the Albanian communist guy." He added, 14, my birthday is due on the 14th and obviously 1488 is that thing. Dimmock denies 5 charges of encouraging terrorism, to 4 counts of disseminating terrorist publications, 2 of funding terrorism, and 1 each of stirring up racial hatred. Hatred based on sexual orientation, possessing a terrorist document, and possessing racially inflammatory material.
Yeah, the trial continues. The thing is, more and more we are getting. I've seen more and more reports about the far right terrorists being put on trial for suspicion of terrorist activities. But of course, you know, people are still falling for Tommy Robinson's fucking grift about all Muslims are fucking pedos, which is bullshit. Statistically it just is. There's still much work to be done to basically ensure that people know that it is the far. I mean, I can't understand why any LGBT plus person can't get it through their head that the greatest threat to their liberty, to their freedom, to their life comes from the far right. I mean, all their rhetoric is hate towards us. Yeah. Yeah, so, yes, well, 2020 becomes worst year for anti-LGBT legislation in the US history. In US history, we're not even halfway through. Yeah, well, yeah, no shit. And by the way, most of the bills which are going through the state legislators, they all come from just about all these bills actually come from one organisation. I think it's called the Freedom Alliance down in Arizona. I mean, Freedom Alliance. Well, so you don't, freedom, but freedom not to be LGBT plus, huh? Is that it?
More anti-LGBT plus legislation has been enacted in the US this year than any other year in history, marking a sad milestone for LGBT plus Americans. With the enactment of 2 anti-LGBT plus laws over the weekend, Montana officially broke the record for the most anti-LGBT plus legislation enacted in a calendar year in the US. So far this year, 17 anti-LGBT plus bills have passed into law, according to the Human Rights Campaign, HR.
Yeah, and let me just remind, this is all because the Republicans are retaliating against there being a Democrat in the White House. So essentially, LGBT plus people are being persecuted because the Republicans are sulking that Joe Biden's in the White House. Right? Just remember that. So the next time LGBT plus people go down to the polling station, remember not to vote Republican, okay? Usually at the midterms, there's a swing against whoever's in control in Congress or the White House, right? So that means next year there's likely to be a swing against the Democrats. Well, I think that trend needs to be bucked, because if people vote Republican more next time round, it's going to get a lot worse for LGBT plus people in various states. And we're not just talking about the southern states here. States like Ohio, and who knows, Michigan, that would be another state. I mean, okay, at the moment there's a Democrat governor in Michigan, and who probably would veto any if I haven't checked whether Michigan has a Republican-controlled basically what I'm saying is, if there's a trend towards the Republicans at the midterms, it's going to get a lot worse for LGBT plus people.
So far this year, 17 anti-LGBT plus bills have passed into law, according to the Human Rights Campaign, HRC. The previous record, 15, was set in 2015. HRC also warned that an additional 11 anti-LGBT plus bills are sitting on governors' desks waiting to be signed into law or vetoed, while dozens more are moving through state legislatures across the country. Alfonso David, HRC's president, said the rights of LGBT plus people, especially trans individuals, across the U.S. are being systematically threatened and undermined by national anti-LGBTQ groups, who are coordinating with anti-equality lawmakers to wage an unprecedented war on the LGBT plus community. Of the 17 bills passed this year, a majority are laws prohibiting trans athletes from participating in women's and girls' sports. In 2021, 7 anti-trans sports bills passed into law in Arkansas, Alabama, Tennessee, Mississippi, Montana, and West Virginia. There were 4 religious refusal bills that passed into law in Arkansas, Montana, and South Dakota. Such bills allow individuals and businesses to openly discriminate against LGBT plus individuals under the guise.
Yeah, this is the new Jim Crow. And I know some people would say you should make that comparison. Well, I am going to make that comparison because it really is that it is that they want LGBT plus people to sit at the back of the bus. They want LGBT people not to be able to use the same lunch counter. That is essentially what they want, and that's the way it's going. And if people if people, vote Republican, come the midterms next year, oh dear, it's going to get a lot worse. And here's the other thing. So we all thought that it was the Republicans instigating all this, and the vast majority, the vast majority of the anti-LGBT plus legislation is, at the state level, is being instigated by Republicans. Don't have a doubt about it. But it's not like the Democrats, there isn't the odd Democrat trying to do so for their own nefarious agendas. And this is just one example. And what's even sadder about this guy's black. Have you ever heard of the word intersectionality, mate? That's what I would say to you. So, Democrat seeks to ban trans youth from sports in Texas as a retaliation for failed agenda. Now, let's get into this.
A state representative of the Texas House has reintroduced and passed a bill out of committee that would ban trans youth in the entire state from participating in sports as their gender identity. The proposal had previously been introduced in the House Education Committee after passing the Texas Senate, but stalled until Rep. Harold Dutton Jr., D. upset that a bill that he championed also died in committee, decided to revive it, in spite of his colleagues who are LGBTQ allies and previously worked to end the proposal.
Right, hold on. Just get this. For fuck's sake. Oh, for Christ's sake.
The control of the Republicans with 7 members to the Democrats' 6. When Senate Bill 29, which requires interscholastic athletic teams sponsored or authorized by a school district or open enrollment charter school to only allow participants to take part in sports under their biological sex, initially did not pass the committee. When it first came to a vote on May 4, one Republican member was absent, leading to the proposal not having enough votes to pass. Dutton abstained from voting on it. But when an unrelated bill introduced by Dutton didn't pass, he decided to use trans youth as a pawn to further his agenda.
Right, he's playing politics with people's lives. I just find that fucking despicable. As I say, pretty obvious that black people are still oppressed in the United States. I fully support Black Lives Matter. And this guy, should realize, should have solidarity with other oppressed minorities. And trans people are one of those oppressed minorities. Yeah, look up intersectionality, Dutton, alright? And stop playing politics with people's lives. So as mentioned, Montana governor is the Montana governor is the latest to sign an anti-trans sports bill into law. Why aren't I surprised? This is just going to continue. Now, talking of talking about Republican governors. So one of the other states which is just signed in an anti-trans sports bill is West Virginia. And there was an interview with the governor. And, oh dear, it's a bit of a car crash, but it makes its point quite well.
The law you just signed banning transgender female athletes from playing on women's school sports teams. Can you name one example of a transgender child trying to gain an unfair competitive advantage at a school there in West Virginia?
Well, Stephanie, I don't have that experience exactly to myself right now, but I will tell
Not
you
yourself,
this.
your state, sir. Can you give me one example of a transgender child trying to get an unfair advantage? Just one in your state. You signed a bill about it.
No, I can't really tell you one, but I can tell you this, Stephanie. I'm a coach, and I coach a girls' basketball team, and I can tell you that we all know what an absolute advantage boys would have playing against girls.
But sir, you have no examples of this happening. Why would you take your time to do this? Let's talk about other things that I can give you examples of in your state. According to U.S. News and World Report, West Virginia ranks 45th in education, 47th in healthcare, 48th on the economy, and 50th in infrastructure. If you cannot name one single example for me of a child doing this, why would you make this a priority?
I'll tell you why. It's a means of distracting voters. Yeah, the Republicans are failing in delivering public services and public infrastructure, right? So basically, because they represent, the uber wealthy who don't want to pay their taxes, and so to distract people who are the people who are the most fucked upon, they go after trans people. It's othering to cover up the failures of neoliberal capitalism. That's what it is.
Name four things that would seem to me like a much bigger priority.
Well, Stephanie, I didn't make it a priority. It wasn't my bill.
You signed it.
I mean, it's just come to me, and I have absolutely signed it because
It weren't my bill. I'm not even sure I can read it. I was born in a barn. My sister was my mother. Talk about a ignorant redneck.
believe, from the standpoint of a coach, I believe that girls work so hard to obtain Title IX, and I do not have any idea now why we are trying to.
Oh, here we go. You see, this is yet another. It's part of the propaganda against trans people that we're all deceivers and cheaters and.
Disadvantage them in participating in the sport that they put so much into. I don't know why we're doing that. This is not like it's a big priority to me. In fact, I think we only have 12. No, Stephanie, listen. I think we only have 12 kids, maybe in our state, that are transgender type kids. I mean, for crying out loud, Stephanie.
He's basically telling her what she's already said to him. That, there's very few trans kids participate in competitive fucking high school sports. And, yet, he seems more interested in, the Republicans in his state seem more interested in that than in providing decent education, decent health care.
I signed hundreds of bills.
Yeah, and I'm not sure you can read any of them.
This is not a priority to me. And but with all that, I would say I think that it would impose an unfair disadvantage on the girls. And so from that standpoint, I support it.
All right then.
Yeah. What a dick. Alright, talking about people who want to be Republican governors. Yes, it's that time again. More cringe with Caitlyn Jenner. So, Caitlyn Jenner didn't vote last year because she was busy golfing. Oh, for fuck's sake. She expects people to go out and vote. I'd love it if some trans woman, let's just say that Caitlyn Jenner, it's not going to happen, but Caitlyn Jenner does become the Republican nominee for governor. And there's trans women being interviewed as to who did they go out and vote for come November. They go, whatever it will be, the recall. I think it would be November, wouldn't it? that they sorry. That they say, oh no, sorry, I was too busy getting my nails done to go out and vote for Caitlyn. Yeah. I mean, she says she cares about politics, and yet she couldn't be asked to go and vote because she was too busy, having a round of golf. What a giant... Well, I mean, we know she's a hypocrite already, but, that just adds to the fucking list, doesn't it? No one likes Caitlyn Jenner, according to Bleak New Poll. It's funny how polling tells me stuff I already know.
A shockingly low 6% of California voters said that they would consider voting for Caitlyn Jenner against Gov. Gavin Newsom in the state's upcoming recall election, according to a new UC Berkeley Institute of Governmental Studies LA Times poll.
Oh, hold on, don't I? Yeah, basically, the polling is saying no one likes her, alright? And, well, yeah, it doesn't surprise me. I found this is interesting. So, Caitlyn Jenner, so basically, anti-trans Christians can't decide if they support Caitlyn Jenner for governor. Well, from what I've seen from people like Lauren Witzke, they don't like her. Caitlyn Jenner's announcement that she's running for governor of California is at best a publicity stunt. Well, yeah, that's kind of what I initially thought because, well, she needs attention because she's a narcissistic egotist. A publicity stunt that will hopefully come crashing down in the near future. Even during a softball interview with Sean Hannity, it was clear Jenner had no actual knowledge of the job, much less her own political positions. Yeah, but neither did Donald Trump. First off, remember that. That's the danger here. But there is one definite upside of her candidacy. Right-wing bigots who routinely pass legislation against transgender people. And I reckon, right, I doubt it would happen in California. But let's just say that if the Republicans gained control of the Californian legislature and started, and we're talking about, not, Republicans of the ilk of Trump, started, the fascists basically rather than the moderates, started pushing bills which were decidedly anti-trans. And would Caitlyn Jenner sign them? And the answer to that, I hate to say, would probably be yes. She wouldn't veto them. Pass legislation against transgender people, or at least support such bills, are twisting themselves into knots, trying to decide if they can support her. She's a Republican who represents one of the best chances of beating Gavin Newsom, but she's trans. What wins out, her bigotry or their desire to own the libs? Check out this roundup of conservatives who typically have a knee-jerk affirmative response to the Republican on the ballot. Dr. Robert Jeffries of the First Baptist Dallas says, hold on, let me put the reader on. I'm getting... Oh, no, I can't. So, yeah, go read this for yourself. Jenner... I think that Jenner's going to end up as the Republican nominee for governor of California. I'm not going to discount completely. I actually haven't seen if if there are any other Republican candidates, but I would imagine there are. As I said, we all laughed when Donald Trump, announced that he was running for president, didn't we? Yeah. So, yeah, Caitlyn Jenner wants to bring back the death penalty. Wants to bring the death penalty back to California. Yeah, I'm sure she does. Just so that she can essentially get votes from Republicans. She doesn't give a shit about trans people. As for the death penalty, no, I am firmly anti-death penalty. Criminal justice system is not foolproof, nor is the death penalty a deterrent. That's been proven. Particularly in the United States, and also, those who get, who are put on death row, generally are people who aren't white, who are poor, who can't, afford a decent lawyer. Now, here's somebody. Kate calls Caitlyn Jenner says she doesn't support trans athletes. Well, this is one person who she would have banned from competing in the Olympics, despite all the training they've put in. Now, lucky enough, they don't live in the United States; they live in New Zealand. Trans weightlifter set to make Olympic history as first out trans competitor. Now, let me just say something here, because I know some people say, well, they'll have an advantage because they've got a male physique. If they've been on hormones for a good amount of time, though they will not have an advantage. I can tell you, right, that I am a lot physically weaker than I used to be, right, and it is down to hormones. I don't mind. I can still get, do the day-to-day that I need to do. But I have noticed, I don't have the strength I used to. And, I'm not the only trans person who says it. That's what it does. It reduces your muscle mass. Weightlifter Lauren Hubbard is set to make history as the first out trans athlete to compete at the Olympics at the Tokyo Games after qualifying rules were revised. By the way, can I just point out that this whole thing, panic about trans athletes, which is now happening. Trans athletes have been allowed into the Olympics and various sports since 2004. So, that's been 16 years. And yet, now, it's an issue. While Hubbard has not been officially announced for the New Zealand team, IWF insiders confirmed to The Guardian that she's almost certain to be given a spot in the women's super heavyweight category. Hubbard, a 43-year-old, also the fact that she's, I don't know, I mean, I'm not big into weightlifting, but she's not that much younger than I am, and you start feeling it after you're 40, I can tell you. Hubbard, a 43-year-old New Zealand weightlifter, would become one of the first openly trans Olympic athletes. Currently 16th in the world rankings, so not likely to win a medal then. And having won silver at the 2017... Well, saying that, I should have looked for... she is already being tipped for a medal. Well, we'll see. The New Zealand Olympic Committee confirmed that International Weightlifting Federation... well, look, sorry, I'm going to have to go a bit early, folks, because unfortunately I'm getting cramp, and I don't know why, in my back. So I'm going to have to wrap this up. Sorry. I keep drinking, but for some reason it's not doing any good. So I'm going to have to wrap this up. Excuse me, a little earlier than I'd want to, but I need to get up and walk around. Excuse me. If you like this video, then give it a like. If you like what we do here, then also please give it a share on your social media feeds. Got any feedback, then leave a comment down below. And, well, most important of all, please subscribe. Anyways, I will be back Friday, hopefully without any fucking cramp. In the meantime, please take care of yourselves, stay safe, and peace out.